The candlelight flickered across the white tablecloth as smooth jazz drifted through the air at Romano's on 5th Street. I'd chosen this little Italian place in downtown Portland because it felt intimate, special. My emerald dress, the one Marcus always complimented, hugged me perfectly, and I'd spent an hour curling my auburn hair just like our early dating days. 10 years of marriage, deserved celebrating properly. Marcus was already there when I walked in, looking sharp in his navy suit but strangely distant. His hazel eyes kept darting around the restaurant instead of meeting mine. When our server brought complimentary Prosecco, we clinked glasses, but something felt off. His smile seemed forced, rehearsed. I pushed the feeling aside and chatted about our upcoming vacation to Napa Valley, trying to recapture that spark we'd had when we first met at that coffee shop near Pioneer Square. Then Marcus reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small black velvet box. My pulse quickened. Maybe new diamond earrings or that vintage locket I'd admired last month. I opened it eagerly. Inside sat his platinum wedding band, catching the restaurant's dim light. Confusion washed over me. "I want a divorce," Marcus said, his voice as casual as ordering another drink. "We both know this isn't working anymore." The words hit me like ice water. The bustling restaurant around us seemed to fade into silence. My fingers gripped my cloth napkin until my knuckles turned white. Marcus continued talking about growing apart and nobody's fault. But his tone felt rehearsed, like he'd practiced this speech. Our server appeared with steaming plates of pasta primavera and chicken marsala, completely oblivious to the bomb that had just exploded at table 12. I stared at the untouched food, then back at the man who'd just casually destroyed our decade. Together. Marcus picked up his fork like nothing had happened. "We can still finish dinner, right?" That's when something inside me snapped. I stood up calmly, grabbed my purse, and looked him directly in the eyes. "Fine. Then you won't be needing your house keys anymore." I walked out without looking back. The drive home to our Craftsman in the Alberta district felt surreal. My hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel, but my mind was surprisingly clear. The signs had been there for months, I'd just been too afraid to see them. It started with missed calls and late nights at his architectural firm. Marcus claimed his boss was pushing for a promotion, demanding extra hours. I wanted to believe him because we had dreams renovating our basement, maybe starting a family. Then came the business trips. Random conferences in Seattle, San Francisco, even Miami. No photos shared. No funny stories about awkward hotel continental breakfasts. Just vague explanations that felt thinner each time. His phone habits changed too. Once carelessly left on our coffee table, now it was always face down, password protected for work security. When I suggested our old movie nights, we used to love those foreign films at the Clinton Street Theater, he'd barely glance up. "Too tired tonight, Sophia." I tried everything to reconnect. Planned surprise picnics at Laurelhurst Park, bought expensive wine from that boutique shop on Hawthorne. I even bought lingerie and cooked his favorite salmon with lemon risotto. He didn't come home until midnight, claiming another work emergency. The night I finally allowed myself to think affair, Marcus brought flowers. Not my favorite sunflowers, that he'd brought on our third date, but generic red roses. Too formal, too guilty. They weren't meant for me, they were meant to silence my suspicions. That anniversary night, I walked into our house and everything felt foreign. The silence was deafening. Marcus's laptop sat open on the kitchen counter, something he never did. He guarded that thing like classified documents. My cursor hovered over the trackpad. One click brought the screen to life. No password prompt. I clicked on a folder labeled Project Files, but my gut said otherwise. Inside were subfolders with dates and cities. Seattle 3.15, Portland 408, Vegas 522. It contained hotel confirmations, restaurant reservations, spa packages, all for 2 people. Then I saw it. Jasmine_photos. My mouth went dry. Inside were pictures of a tall brunette with bright green eyes, wearing Marcus's college sweatshirt, taking mirror selfies in hotel rooms I'd never seen. Screenshots of their messages made my stomach turn. "Missing you already, handsome. Can't wait for our Cannon Beach weekend. Especially away from your boring wife. Tell me about it, she's so clingy." I sat there for 20 minutes, staring at evidence of months of deception. Then something shifted. The hurt crystallized into determination. I screenshot everything, emailed the files to myself, saved them to a flash drive. I wasn't going to cry, I was going to plan. The next morning, Marcus hummed while making coffee like nothing had happened. He'd shattered our marriage over dinner, but here he was, checking his phone and acting normal. I waited until he took his first sip. So, her name is Jasmine. His coffee mug froze halfway to his lips. No panic, just a slight pause. You went through my laptop. Not a question, a statement. Look, I didn't want you finding out this way, he said, rubbing his stubbled jaw, but we both knew this was coming. People fall out of love. It happens. The casualness of it hit me like a slap. No, I said, voice shaking but steady. You cheated. You lied. That's not falling out of love. Marcus rolled his eyes. It's not black and white, Sophia. Things change. You became so predictable. Don't you dare blame this on me, I snapped. He shrugged, leaning against our granite countertop. I'll start looking for an apartment soon. No need to make this uglier than necessary. That's when it happened, that moment of crystal clarity. He really thought he could waltz out clean. Like this wasn't my house, my life, my name on the deed. I smiled, sharp and tight. Oh, you're moving out soon. Yeah, I'll need about a month to get organized. I took a slow sip of my chamomile tea. You'll be out much sooner than that. His brow furrowed. What's that supposed to mean? I stood, met his confused gaze. It means you have 72 hours. Maximum. You can't just kick me out. We're married. I grabbed my phone and walked past him. Actually, the deed to this house is in my name. Always has been. You're not my husband anymore, Marcus. You're just a man trespassing in my home. Helen Rodriguez's law office smelled like leather and determination. She was mid-50s, sharp-eyed, no nonsense, exactly what I needed. I wanted to know my rights, especially regarding the house I'd bought 2 years before our wedding. If it's solely in your name and not considered marital property, it's yours, Helen explained. But let's run a complete financial check. 2 days later, she called with news that made my hands shake. Marcus had opened a credit card in my name 8 months ago. Used my social security number, maxed it out on luxury hotels, restaurants, flights, every expense matching those folder names on his laptop. I was $15,000 in debt for their romantic getaways. I've started the fraud process, Helen assured me. We'll dispute everything. But there's more. He'd also transferred $12,000 from our joint savings into a separate account. Some of it went directly to an account under Jasmine's name. He wasn't just cheating with his heart, he was stealing my identity, my money, my future. He'd used my love as a credit card to fund his betrayal. I sat in my Honda Civic after that meeting, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. The sadness had drained away, leaving something colder, sharper. Marcus had played me like a fool, but what he didn't know was that I wasn't weak, and I definitely wasn't done. I stopped arguing with him. No more tears, no slammed doors. I gave him polite silence, the kind that feels more dangerous than screaming. He thought I was accepting defeat, finally letting go. I let him believe it. Behind the scenes, I was building a case. Helen explained that since Marcus wasn't on the deed, legally he was just a guest. A guest who'd overstayed his welcome. So, I filed eviction papers, just like any landlord would. I changed every security code, installed extra cameras facing our driveway. I started documenting everything, every late night, every sarcastic comment, every time he acted like he still owned the place. I smiled through it all, playing the perfect hostess while building my legal fortress. I quietly moved my important documents to a safety deposit box, separated my finances, cleaned out the guest room. Not for him, for whatever desperate move he'd make next. Let him feel comfortable. Let him think he had time. He had no idea a sheriff was coming, that the house he strutted around in had never legally been his. He thought he'd played me perfectly, but I was done being the naive wife. Now I was the landlord, and his lease was up. It was a Thursday when I came home to find a purple suitcase in our hallway. At first, I thought maybe his sister was visiting from Eugene. Then I heard her laugh loud, fake, echoing from my kitchen. There she was, Jasmine, in my kitchen, wearing my oversized Oregon Ducks hoodie, eating chips straight from the bag like she owned the place. She looked up with a bright smile. Hey, you must be Sophia. I glanced at Marcus, leaning against the counter with his arms crossed. She's staying a few days, he said casually. Just until she finds her own place. I nodded slowly. Of course, really, he asked, surprised. I smiled sweetly. Sure, what's one more tenant? They didn't understand, but I was already recording on my phone. Jasmine settled into the guest room, spreading her makeup across my bathroom counter, hanging her clothes in my closet. She moved through my house like she'd conquered it. I never told her otherwise. Instead, I brought her coffee, offered fresh towels, asked if she needed anything like a perfect landlord. She couldn't resist gloating though. You know, she said one evening, flipping her glossy hair, I didn't steal him. He left because he was tired of being with someone, so, stuck. I raised an eyebrow. Stuck? Yeah, like you just gave up trying. You're honestly kind of pathetic. I smiled again, pressing stop on my voice recorder. That's really helpful feedback, really. She smirked. Just being honest. Noted, I said. Over the next few days, Jasmine got bolder. Left her brass on my couch, played music loudly in my shower, tried to redecorate my living room. She even moved my grandmother's antique vase to make room for some cheap plant from her car. I watched. I documented. Every insult, every entitled move. Because legally, once you live somewhere long enough, you can be evicted just like anyone else. She thought she'd won, but she was just another squatter about to get kicked out. Saturday morning came bright and clear. I sat on my front porch with coffee, dressed and ready. At exactly 9 a.m., Helen's black Lexus pulled into my driveway. Behind her, a marked sheriff's car. We walked to my front door together. I didn't knock. It was my house. Inside, there they were. Marcus in his gray robe at the kitchen table, Jasmine in my old Portland Timbers t-shirt, spreading jam on toast. Morning, I said cheerfully. Hope you both slept well. Jasmine rolled her eyes. What's this supposed to be? The deputy stepped forward with official papers. I'm serving notice of eviction. You have 72 hours to vacate the premises. What? Jasmine shot up so fast her chair screeched. This is illegal. No, Helen said calmly. What you're doing is illegal. You're residing here without the property owner's permission. That's trespassing. Marcus stood up, disheveled and confused. Sophia, come on. Can't we just talk about this? I looked at him like a stranger. Talk? You stopped doing that months ago, remember? I just need more time. You've had time, I said evenly. Now you have 72 hours. The deputy shrugged. No one's dragging you out today. But if you're still here Tuesday morning, we come back, and it won't be this friendly. Jasmine's face twisted with rage. You're pathetic. This is so petty. I tilted my head. Don't worry, Jasmine. You'll both land on your feet. Maybe not together, but who knows? She stared at me. What's that supposed to mean? I didn't answer, just smiled. You should start packing. Moving boxes are in the garage. You're welcome. I walked out into the sunshine, coffee warm in my hands. Behind me, I could hear Jasmine cursing, Marcus trying to calm her down, the deputy explaining next steps. But I didn't look back. They were no longer my problem. 2 weeks later, the house was quiet again. I'd donated the guest room bedding, tossed Jasmine's cheap wine glasses, and burned sage in every room. I was reorganizing my closet when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hello, a pause, it's Jasmine. Her voice was different, exhausted, broken. I figured you should know. You weren't the only one he lied to. I leaned against the wall. Go on. His real name isn't even Marcus. That's his middle name. I only found out when I was helping him pack. She laughed bitterly. I started digging after that. He's been married before. Before you. A woman in Colorado, they have a kid. He never actually divorced her. And there were others too, not wives, but women. Some of us overlapped. My stomach dropped. You're saying I was never legally married? You might have been his second wife, but not his last. I found a burner phone in his gym bag, text chains with at least 3 other women. We sat in silence. Finally, she said, I left him 2 days ago. Packed my car and drove to my sister's in Bend. I don't know why I'm calling you. Maybe I just needed someone who'd understand. Do you understand? I said softly. I thought he loved me, she whispered. He told me you were cold, controlling, that you didn't care about him anymore. He told me you were just a phase, a mistake. He's really good at lying, she said. That's all he ever was. I heard her trying not to cry. I feel so stupid. You're not stupid, I said. You were just the next target. After a moment, she asked, what are you going to do now? I looked around my peaceful house, my name still on the deed, my credit almost repaired, my dignity intact. Live, I said. Happily. Without him. Yeah, she said quietly. Same. We ended the call, not as friends, but as survivors. Both burned by the same man, both finally free. I heard through mutual friends that Marcus moved in with his cousin in Southeast Portland. No job, no money, no one left to con. Perfect. He'd spent years building lies. And now he had nothing but the truth to live with. It's been 5 months now. My house feels like home again. I painted the living room sage green, got new curtains, rearranged everything. It's amazing how spaces can breathe when toxic people leave. I joined a yoga studio in the Pearl District, not for revenge body nonsense, but because I needed to feel strong again. Some mornings I hike Forest Park with my phone at home, just me and the Douglas firs. I sleep better, eat better, laugh without guilt. Last month I took a solo road trip to Crater Lake. Drove through the Cascade Mountains with the windows down, indie music blasting. I watched the sunset over that impossible blue water, completely alone and perfectly content. But the emails still come, always the same address, no subject line. The first time I saw it, my heart jumped, that old reflex, that familiar ache. But I didn't open it. I stared at it, hovered my cursor over it, then moved it straight to trash. They keep coming. Weekly, sometimes twice. I never open them. I already know what's inside: regret, excuses, maybe some pathetic attempt at an apology. Maybe he wants closure or forgiveness. Maybe he just wants to know if I'm still hurting. But I'm not. I've rebuilt everything: my life, my credit, my sense of self. He doesn't get to touch any of that, not anymore. Today, I was checking my email for work stuff, and there it was again. Another message from Marcus Rodriguez, or whatever his real name is, no subject line. Just sitting there like a ghost trying to haunt me. I didn't hesitate. Click, delete, gone. I don't feel angry anymore. Not even sad. Just free. He wanted out that night at Romano's, said it so casually like he was ordering tiramisu. I want a divorce. Well, he got it. And then some. He asked for freedom, and I gave it to him, right out my front door with 72 hours notice. Some people say I was harsh, but I call it justice. He played with fire, and I became the flame. Now he's just ashes, and I'm still burning bright.